The letter had been simple, too simple for something that was supposed to change a life. Ranch burned, need help. Honest man, no promises but no lies either. That was all Daniel Mercer had written before sending it off months ago, not expecting a reply. Men like him didn't get second chances. Not after everything was gone. Not after the fire. The land that once stretched wide and proud now sat in silence, scarred and blackened. The house was nothing more than a skeleton of charred wood. The barn had collapsed in on itself, leaving only twisted beams and ash. Even the air smelled different here now, like loss that hadn't fully faded. Daniel stood in the middle of it most mornings, staring at what used to be his life, his hands resting heavy at his sides. He didn't rebuild, not yet, because rebuilding meant believing something could come back, and he wasn't sure he believed that anymore. So when word came that a train had arrived and that someone had stepped off asking for him, he didn't move right away. He just stood there staring at the ground, trying to decide if it was worth the effort to walk into town for something that would probably end the same way everything else did. Disappointment. Still, he went. The town was quiet when he arrived, the usual slow rhythm of frontier life moving without much care. But there was a shift near the platform. People watching, whispering, curious. Daniel noticed immediately. He didn't like attention, but today, it wasn't about him. It was about her. She stood near the edge of the platform, a single bag at her feet, her posture straight despite the long journey. Her dress was simple, but well kept, her gloves clean, her eyes sharp. Too sharp for someone who was supposed to be desperate enough to answer a letter like his. She didn't look lost. She didn't look uncertain. She looked like she had chosen to be there. And that alone made Daniel stop a few steps short. "That him?" someone whispered nearby. "Must be," another replied quietly. The woman turned slightly, her gaze landing on him without hesitation, like she already knew. Daniel felt that same strange shift in his chest, the kind that came when something didn't match what you expected. He stepped forward anyway, slow, measured. "You looking for me?" he asked. Her eyes held his for a moment before she nodded. "Daniel Mercer." Not a question, a statement. He gave a small nod. "Yeah." A brief silence followed. Then she reached down, picking up her bag with calm ease. "Evelyn Carter," she said. "I believe you wrote to me." Daniel blinked once. "You actually came," he said, more to himself than to her. A faint hint of something touched her expression, not quite a smile. "You sounded honest," she replied. That wasn't something he heard often. Daniel shifted slightly, glancing past her at the watching crowd before turning back. "It's not much out there," he said. "Less than not much, if I'm being straight." Evelyn tilted her head slightly. "I didn't come for much," she said. "I came for truth." That answer didn't sit where he expected it to. He studied her for a moment longer, then nodded once. "You'll get that," he said, "whether you like it or not." "Good," she replied. No hesitation, no second thoughts, just that same steady certainty. Daniel turned, motioning slightly with his head. "Wagons this way." She followed without question. The ride out of town was quieter than most. Not awkward, just still. Daniel kept his focus on the road, the worn path leading back toward what used to be his ranch. He didn't speak much, didn't feel the need to fill the silence. Evelyn, on the other hand, seemed to take everything in. The land, the sky, the distance between one place and the next. "You always this far out?" she asked after a while. "Far enough," he replied. "Close enough to survive." She nodded slightly, as if that answer told her more than he intended. "And the fire?" she asked. The question came without warning, direct. Daniel's grip on the reins tightened just slightly. "What about it?" "Your letter mentioned it," she said calmly. "Didn't say much else." He exhaled slowly. "Didn't see the point," he said. "Fire took what it wanted. That's about all there is to it. Evelyn watched him for a moment, then looked ahead again. Fires don't choose, she said quietly. People do. That made him glance at her, sharp. You saying something? He asked. She met his gaze evenly. Just an observation. The air shifted slightly. Not tense, but not light either. Daniel looked back to the road, his jaw tightening just a fraction before relaxing again. You'll see it soon enough, he said. What's left? They reached the land as the sun began to lower, casting long shadows across the blackened ground. The sight of it hit just as hard as it always did. Burned wood, collapsed structures, silence where there used to be life. Evelyn climbed down from the wagon without waiting for help, her boots touching the ground with quiet confidence. She stood there for a moment, taking it in. Really taking it in. Not just looking, but understanding. Daniel watched her closely, waiting for it. The reaction he had seen before. Disappointment, regret. The moment someone realized they had made a mistake. But it didn't come, not the way he expected. Evelyn stepped forward slowly, her eyes moving across the ruins, her expression thoughtful, not broken, not even surprised. This is worse than your letter, she said finally. Daniel let out a dry breath. Told you, he replied. No promises. She turned to face him. And yet you still stood here when I arrived, she said. He frowned slightly. What's that supposed to mean? It means you haven't left, she said simply. Most men would have. Daniel looked past her at the burned remains of his home. Most men didn't lose it like this, he said quietly. Evelyn studied him for a moment, something shifting behind her eyes. No, she agreed. They didn't. Silence settled between them as the wind moved lightly across the land, carrying the faint scent of ash that still lingered. You can go back, Daniel said after a moment. Train'll be running again in a couple days. Evelyn didn't respond right away. Instead, she walked a few steps further into the ruins, her gloved hand brushing lightly against a charred beam. And leave you like this? She asked. Daniel shrugged. Wouldn't be the first time someone did. She turned back slowly, her gaze steady. I'm not someone, she said. The words were calm, but firm. Daniel held her eyes, something unreadable passing through his expression. You don't know what you're stepping into, he said. I know enough, she replied. Another silence. Then she took a step closer. The question is, do you? That caught him off guard. He narrowed his eyes slightly. What's that supposed to mean? Evelyn didn't answer immediately. Instead, she removed one of her gloves slowly, revealing a hand that didn't quite match the story he had built in his head. No roughness from hard labor, no signs of desperation, just careful control, intent. It means, she said quietly, this doesn't have to be the end of your story. Daniel let out a short, humorless breath. You see something here I don't? Yes, she said. No hesitation, no doubt. He stared at her for a long moment, trying to understand where that certainty came from. And what exactly is that? He asked. Evelyn's eyes didn't leave his, not for a second. A beginning, she said. The word hung in the air, heavier than it should have been. Daniel felt it, but he didn't accept it, not yet. He looked away first, his gaze drifting back to the ruins. You don't know what it took to build this, he said quietly, or what it means to lose it. Evelyn stepped closer again, her voice softer now, but no less steady. You're right, she said, but I do know what it means to rebuild. That made him look at her again. Really look this time. And for the first time since she arrived, he realized something wasn't adding up. The way she spoke, the way she carried herself, the way she wasn't reacting like someone who had just walked into ruin. Who are you? He asked. The question came low, careful. Evelyn held his gaze, something unreadable flickering behind her calm expression. She didn't answer right away, and in that silence, something shifted. Because Daniel understood, in that moment, that the woman who had answered his letter wasn't just a bride looking for a place to belong. She was something else entirely. Something he hadn't expected. Something he wasn't ready for. And somehow, that was exactly why he couldn't walk away. The question still lingered in the air between them, unspoken now but heavier than before. "Who are you?" Daniel hadn't meant it as an accusation. It was something closer to instinct, the kind that told a man when things weren't what they seemed. Evelyn didn't answer right away. Instead, she looked past him for a moment, her eyes moving slowly over the burned remains of the ranch. The silence stretched, but it didn't feel empty. It felt deliberate, like she was choosing her next words carefully. "Does it matter?" she asked finally. Daniel frowned slightly. "It does if you're planning to stay," he replied. She turned back to him, her expression calm but no longer distant. "I am staying," she said. No hesitation, no doubt. That alone was enough to unsettle him more than anything else. "You've seen it," he said, gesturing lightly toward the ruins. "There's nothing here." Evelyn stepped closer, her boots pressing into the ash-covered ground. "There's land," she said. "There's structure left to rebuild from. And there's you." Daniel let out a quiet breath, shaking his head. "That's not much to work with." "It's more than most have," she replied. Her certainty didn't waver. It never seemed to. Daniel studied her again, trying to find the part of her that matched the situation. The part that should be doubting this. But it wasn't there. "You still haven't." "It answered my question," he said. Evelyn's gaze softened just slightly, not weaker, just less guarded. "I told you my name," she said. "Evelyn Carter." "That's not what I asked," Daniel replied. A faint pause, then she sighed, almost too quietly to notice. "No," she admitted, "it's not." The winds shifted around them, carrying the faint scent of ash once more. Evelyn looked down briefly at her gloved hand, then removed the other glove as well, tucking both into her bag. It was a small action, but it felt like a decision. "I didn't come here because I had nowhere else to go," she said slowly. Daniel's expression didn't change, but his attention sharpened. "I came here because I chose this place," she continued, "and because I needed to see if what I was told was true." "Told by who?" he asked. She met his gaze again. "People who watch land the way others watch money," she said. "People who know when something valuable is about to disappear." That made his jaw tighten slightly. "You talking about my land?" Evelyn didn't hesitate. "Yes." The word hit harder than he expected, not because he disagreed, but because she said it like it was a fact. "There's nothing valuable left here," he said. "You're looking at it." Evelyn shook her head slightly. "You're looking at the surface," she said. "I'm looking at what it could be again." Daniel let out a short breath. "That's a nice idea," he muttered. "Doesn't make it real." "It does if someone is willing to make it real," she replied. Silence settled again, heavier this time. Daniel stepped closer, just enough to close some of the distance between them. "And you?" he asked. "You willing to do that?" Evelyn held his gaze without flinching. "Yes." The answer came instantly. No hesitation, no doubt. And that's when it clicked. Not fully, but enough. "You're not just some woman who answered a letter," Daniel said quietly. Evelyn didn't deny it this time. Instead, she reached into her bag slowly, carefully, and pulled out a folded piece of paper. Not worn, not rushed, deliberate. She held it for a second before handing it to him. "Read it," she said. Daniel took it, his brow furrowing slightly as he unfolded it. His eyes moved across the page slowly at first, then faster. Then they stopped. He read the line again, and again. His grip tightened just slightly on the paper. When he looked up, something in his expression had changed. Not shock, not disbelief, something deeper. "This is," he started, then stopped. Evelyn nodded once. "Mine," she said. The word landed heavier than anything else she had said so far. Daniel looked back down at the paper, the official markings, the land claims, the signatures that carried weight far beyond this broken ranch. It wasn't just money, it was power, influence, control over land that stretched far beyond what he had lost. He let out a slow breath, handing the paper back to her. "You're serious," he said. "I don't deal in anything else," she replied. Another silence, but this one was different. This one shifted everything. Daniel looked around at the burned remains again, then back at her. "So what?" he asked. "You're here to buy what's left?" Evelyn shook her head. "No." "Then what?" She stepped closer, her voice steady. "I'm here to build it back," she said. "With you." The words didn't echo. They settled, just like before. But this time they didn't feel uncertain. They felt solid. Daniel stared at her, searching for anything that would make this make sense in the world he understood. "Why?" he asked. It wasn't suspicion. It was confusion. Evelyn's expression softened again, just slightly. "Because you didn't lie in your letter," she said, "and because men who don't lie about losing everything usually don't lie about building something real." The answer was simple, but it cut deeper than anything else she could have said. Daniel looked away for a moment, his gaze drifting across the land that had once been his pride, the land he had already started to give up on. "You don't know how hard this will be," he said quietly. Evelyn followed his gaze. "I do," she replied. "Hard doesn't scare me." He let out a small breath. "It should." "Maybe," she said, "but it doesn't stop me." Another pause. Then Daniel looked back at her, something shifting in his eyes. Not doubt, not resistance. Something closer to consideration. "And what happens when it fails?" he asked. Evelyn met his gaze without hesitation. "Then it fails," she said, "but at least it won't be because we didn't try." The word "we" didn't go unnoticed. Neither of them pointed it out, but it stayed there, between them. Real. Daniel studied her for a long moment. Then slowly he nodded, not fully agreeing, not fully convinced, but not walking away either. "You're serious about this," he said. "I am." He glanced once more at the ruins, then back at her. "Then we start tomorrow," he said. Evelyn's lips curved just slightly, not quite a smile, but close. "No," she replied softly. Daniel frowned faintly. "No?" She shook her head once. "We start now." The wind moved lightly across the land again, carrying less of the past and more of something new. And as Daniel looked at her, really looked this time, he realized something he hadn't allowed himself to believe since the fire. This wasn't the end of what he had lost. This was the beginning of something he hadn't expected. Because the woman who arrived as a mail-order bride hadn't come to be saved. She had come to rebuild. And whether he was ready or not, she wasn't leaving without doing exactly that.